Leo stood on the edge of the spaceship's docking bay, staring at the alien city below. It was unlike anything he had ever seen. The buildings were tall and sleek, glowing with strange, soft lights. The air was thick with the sounds of an unfamiliar language and the hum of flying vehicles zooming by. As a human representative from Earth, Leo felt both proud and nervous. He had been sent to this distant galaxy to help broker peace. Between two alien factions that had been fighting for centuries, the human race was still young in the eyes of most of the galactic species, but they were known for their persistence and ability to surprise. Leo was one of the best diplomats Earth had to offer, and he had been chosen for this mission because of his reputation for handling delicate situations. Still, even with all his training, nothing had prepared him for the moment when he was called to meet Princess Vera. The princess was the ruler of one of the most powerful species in the galaxy, and her people had watched the humans from a distance. The humans were considered primitive, unable to understand the intricacies of galactic politics. But Leo wasn't here to fight that battle. He was here to represent Earth's future and to bring peace if he could. As the ship touched down on the landing platform, Leo stepped out and adjusted his uniform. His heart raced, knowing he was about to meet the most powerful being in this part of the galaxy. He'd read about her, Princess Vera, known for her beauty and wisdom, but also for her temper. It was said that she could command the strongest warriors, and yet there was something vulnerable about her, hidden beneath layers of power. The guards led Leo through the palace, which was as magnificent as the city outside. It was made of shimmering materials, with walls that seemed to change color depending on the angle of the light. Leo couldn't help but feel like an ant in such a grand place. They stopped in front of a large set of doors, guarded by two tall alien soldiers. The doors opened, revealing Princess Vera standing in the middle of the room. She was striking. Her long silver hair flowed like a waterfall, and her skin glowed a soft violet hue. Her eyes, a piercing shade of blue, looked straight at Leo as if she could see every secret he held. "Welcome, human," she said, her voice smooth and confident. Leo straightened his back and bowed slightly, just as he had been taught. "Your Highness," he said, his voice steady, "it is an honor to be in your presence." She smiled faintly, but there was something in her eyes that made Leo feel uneasy. "I've heard much about humans, but you're the first I've met. I wonder if you live up to the stories." Leo wasn't sure if she was testing him, but he decided to play along. "I'll do my best to live up to the expectations." Princess Vera gestured for him to sit at a long, polished table. There were no fancy ceremonies or introductions. It was clear she was not one for formalities. As Leo sat, she motioned for her servant to bring refreshments. It was a simple gesture, but Leo found it disarming. The royalty he had read about in books or seen in movies always had an air of untouchability. But Vera seemed ... different. She was still powerful. But there was something raw and real about her. "I assume you're here to negotiate peace between our people and the Zorathians?" Vera said, folding her hands on the table. "But I wonder, what you can offer us, the humans are young. You're not even a blip on the galactic scale." Leo hesitated for a moment before answering. "We may be young, Your Highness, but we are determined. And we have something no one else in the galaxy has: our ability to adapt and learn. We may not have the strength or numbers of your people, but we have a spirit that can't be ignored." Vera raised an eyebrow. "And you think that will make a difference? In a galaxy filled with warriors, scholars, and kings? What is a human's spirit worth?" Leo leaned forward, meeting her gaze. "Everything. Because when a human commits to something, they don't stop. We might not be the strongest, but we find a way." Vera seemed intrigued by his words, though she didn't show it. "We'll see if your spirit can match your claims." A servant entered with a tray, placing a glass of dark liquid in front of each of them. "This is a drink from my home planet," Vera said. "It's a test of sorts. Only those who are worthy can drink it without harm." Leo took the glass. In his hand, it was heavier than he expected, and the liquid inside shimmered in a way that made him uneasy. He looked at Vera, but she just stared back, waiting. "I've heard that your people can drink anything without flinching. Let's see. If that's true, With a deep breath, Leo took a sip. The taste was unlike anything he had ever experienced. It was bitter, sharp, and seemed to burn his throat, but he didn't flinch. He set the glass down carefully, watching Vera's expression. For a moment, she didn't speak. Then she smiled, a small, genuine smile. "You passed the test, human." Most would have fallen to their knees by now. Leo smiled back, feeling a little lighter. "I told you, Your Highness. We find a way." Vera leaned back in her chair, her eyes still studying him. "Perhaps you're more than I expected. Aren't you here for more than just talk, aren't you?" Leo's expression hardened. "Yes. We need your help. Zorathians are threatening peace everywhere they go, and we need you to help stop them. You can't do this alone." Vera didn't respond immediately. Instead, she walked to a nearby window and gazed out at the city. "What makes you think I would help you? My people have no reason to get involved in your wars." Leo followed her gaze, seeing the distant stars. "Because the future of the galaxy depends on it. You may not see it now, but the Zorathians won't stop. They'll keep spreading fear and destruction. If we don't stop them together, everything we know will fall apart." Vera turned to him, her eyes hardening. "And why should I trust you? You're human." Leo swallowed, feeling the weight of her words. "Because if you don't help us, we may never get another chance." The silence between them stretched long. Then finally, Vera spoke. "I will help you, but on one condition." Leo raised an eyebrow, unsure of what to expect. "What is it?" She smiled again, a sly glint in her eyes. "You'll have to prove to me that humans are as resourceful as you claim. Only then will I consider this alliance." Leo knew there was no turning back. He had to find a way to earn her trust and quickly. The fate of the galaxy rested on it. The palace was silent after Vera's challenge. Leo had known the mission would be difficult, but he hadn't anticipated that diplomacy would be tested so quickly. The princess, it seemed, wasn't one for simple pleasantries or easy promises. She was a ruler, sharp and careful. Her every word weighted with the responsibility of her people's survival. But Leo wasn't just there to win her trust. He had to prove that humans, despite their youthful nature, had something invaluable to offer. He sat in silence as Vera moved around the room, gathering documents and maps on a large table. The flickering holograms of star systems in various territories made the room feel even more alien, the glow of the projections casting an eerie light. Leo's eyes followed her movements, noting her poise and grace. But there was something in the way she carried herself that gave him pause, a strength that hid a vulnerability, one that only someone truly observant would notice. Vera turned to face him, her arms folded across her chest. "You are different from the others. Most humans I've met are desperate to impress, eager to please. But you," she studied him carefully, "you're more serious. I don't know whether to admire that or be wary of it." Leo leaned forward, meeting her gaze. "I'm here to do what's right for both our peoples. Nothing more, nothing less." Eyes lingered on his as though she was deciding whether to believe him. After a long pause, she spoke again, but this time her voice softened. "I don't trust many human. I trust you even less." Leo didn't flinch. "Then we'll have to work on that. Die." The tension in the room thickened, but neither of them broke eye contact, and I felt like the very air between them crackled with unspoken challenges. Yet, despite the uncertainty, Leo couldn't help but be drawn to her strength. Vera wasn't just a princess, she was a warrior in her own right. She wasn't afraid to stand alone. Even when surrounded by those who feared her power, Vera finally broke the silence. Walking towards a large window that looked out over the sprawling city below, she was silent for a long time, watching the lights of the city flicker like stars in the distance. Leo couldn't tell if she was lost in thought or simply avoiding looking at him. "I understand why you came, Leo," she said quietly. "The Zorathians are a threat, but you underestimate what it takes to defeat them. My people have fought countless battles to maintain our place in this galaxy. We don't rely on others, never have." Leo stood, walking slowly towards her. "And that's why you need us. The Zorathians won't stop, Your Highness. We're not asking for your people to fight our battles, we're asking for an alliance. The strength of both our civilizations together is what will make a difference." Vera turned to him, her expression unreadable. Alliance. You speak of unity, but you know nothing of what it truly takes to unite different species. Even the greatest leaders fail when they try. I'm not asking for a perfect solution, Leo said, stepping closer. I'm asking for a chance. Vera's eyes narrowed, and for a brief moment, Leo thought she might challenge him further. But then, unexpectedly, she smiled a smile that was sharp, yet tinged with something almost playful. Very well, she said, her tone changing. You've spoken your piece. But now, let's see if you can back up your words. Leo watched. As she walked to the far side of the room and grabbed a small device from a shelf, she held it up to him, her eyes challenging him. This is a relic from my people's past, she explained. It's an ancient puzzle that only those who possess true intelligence and resourcefulness can solve. Many have tried and failed. If you want me to believe in your alliance, you'll need to solve this. Leo took the device, a small, intricate box with glowing symbols etched into it. It looked simple at first glance, but something about it made his fingers itch with curiosity. The box seemed to pulse with an energy that Leo couldn't explain. He examined it closely, noting the patterns and the way the light shifted as he turned it over in his hands. What do you want me to do with it? He asked. Vera's smile widened, though it was still enigmatic. Solve it, and I will consider your words with more seriousness. Fail, and our conversation ends here. Leo nodded, feeling the weight of the challenge settle on his shoulders. He knew that this wasn't just a test of intelligence. It was a test of his perseverance, his ability to think beyond the obvious. This was about proving that humanity had the ability to adapt. To face the unknown and come out on top, he began turning the box over and over in his hands, running his fingers over the strange symbols. The more he examined it, the more the puzzle seemed to reveal itself. The symbols shifted slightly with every movement, as if the box were alive. Leo's mind raced as he tried to make sense of the patterns, remembering everything he had learned about alien technology during his training. Time seemed to slow as he focused entirely on the task. He felt a sense of calm settle over him, as though everything he had experienced up until this point had prepared him for this moment. The puzzle was more than just a challenge, it was a chance to prove his worth. Vera watched him intently from across the room, her arms still crossed. The silence in the room was broken only by the soft clicks and shifts of the puzzle in Leo's hands. Finally, after what seemed like an eternity, there was a sharp click, and the box opened. Leo looked up at Vera, who was now watching him with a mixture of surprise and approval. You solved it, she said, her voice softer now, almost reluctant. I didn't think you would. Leo smiled, feeling a rush of triumph. I told you. We find a way. Vera walked over and examined the open box. Inside, there was a small crystal that shimmered with a soft light. She picked it up gently, holding it out to Leo. This crystal holds the key to understanding the Zerothians' plans, she said. I'll give it to you, but no, this set comes with a heavy price. If you're ready for that, then we can discuss what comes next. Leo took the crystal carefully, his mind racing with the possibilities. He had done it. He had earned her respect, and now he had a real chance to help Earth and the galaxy. As he turned to face her, Vera looked at him with a different expression, one of respect, but also of something more. It was as if in that moment, their connection had shifted, moving beyond just diplomacy to something deeper, more personal. I'll do whatever it takes, Leo said, his voice firm. Vera nodded slowly, a hint of a smile tugging at the corners of her lips. We'll see if you still feel the same after what's to come. The following days passed in a blur of strategy meetings, quiet walks in the palace gardens, and long conversations about the state of the galaxy. Leo had earned Princess Vieira's trust, but it was clear that there was more to this alliance than just solving an ancient puzzle. She was a woman of few words, but when she spoke, every sentence felt like it carried the weight of 1,000 decisions. Vera's people, the Amari, lived in peace for centuries, isolated from the constant warring between other alien races. Their technology was unmatched, their culture rich and old. The Zorathians had become a threat they couldn't ignore any longer. Leo had seen the fear in her eyes when she first mentioned the name of the enemy. It wasn't just the fear of war, it was the fear of losing everything. Leo sat in his quarters, studying the crystal that Vera had given him. The shimmering light it emitted was almost hypnotic, and he couldn't shake the feeling that it was trying to tell him something. As he turned it over in his hands, he recalled the words Vera had spoken. This crystal holds the key to understanding the Zerothians' plans. He had hoped to decipher its secrets on his own, but he quickly realized that this task was far beyond his abilities. The symbols on the crystal were unlike anything he had seen before. It was more than just a piece of alien technology. It was a map, a guide to something important, hidden deep within Zorothian territory. The door to his quarters opened with a soft click, and Vera stepped inside, her eyes immediately locking onto the crystal in his hand. "I see you've been busy," she said, her voice steady, yet filled with an unspoken question. Leo didn't hide the crystal. He held it up, turning it so that she could see it clearly. "I've been trying to figure it out, but I don't think I can do this alone." Vera stepped closer, her gaze never leaving the crystal. "You're right," she said. "This isn't something you can solve by yourself. It's a key to a hidden weapon, one that could turn the tide of war. But using it comes with its own set of dangers." Leo frowned. "What kind of weapon?" Vera's expression darkened. "The Zerothians have long believed that they are invincible. They've conquered countless worlds with sheer force, but they're blind to the dangers they face. This weapon, it was created long ago by my ancestors. It was meant to be used as a last resort, to protect the galaxy if the worst ever happened. But it's too powerful, too dangerous." Leo stood up, placing the crystal back on the table. "So you're telling me that this weapon could be the key to defeating them?" Vera nodded. "It could, but only if we unlock its full potential. The map shows the location of a hidden base, deep within Zorothian-controlled space. Inside, you'll find the weapon. But you'll also find a great deal of destruction. It's not something to be taken lightly." Leo stared at the crystal, feeling the weight of the decision pressing down on him. This wasn't just about saving Earth. It was about saving everything. Ain't the Zorathians got their hands on this? Weapon first, it could be the end of peace in the galaxy. "You said this was a last resort," Leo said slowly. "Why not just destroy the crystal? Keep it hidden forever?" Vera sighed, her gaze softening for the first time. "Once thought the same thing, but the galaxy is changing. The Zorathians are relentless, and they will never stop until they've conquered everything in their path. If we don't use this weapon, we risk losing everything. I won't let that happen." Leo felt a pang of sympathy for her. The burden of leadership weighed heavy on her shoulders. She was a ruler, yes, but she was also a person who carried the weight of the entire galaxy's survival. He took a deep breath, making up his mind. "Then we go after it. Together." Vera looked at him, her eyes searching his face. "You understand the risk, don't you? Once we go after this weapon, there's no turning back. The Zerothians will hunt us, and they won't stop until we're dead." "I understand," Leo said, his voice firm. "But we don't have a choice. If we don't stop them now, we might not get another chance." Vera nodded, her lips pressed into a thin line. "Very well, but we'll need help. We can't do this alone." Leo's thoughts raced. "Do you have any allies who could help us?" Vera hesitated for a moment, her eyes flicking toward the window. "I do, but it's not going to be easy. The factions that have stood against the Zerothians are scattered and disorganized. We'll need to bring them together. And that won't happen without convincing them that we're not just another threat." Leo looked at her, understanding her concerns. The road ahead would be dangerous, and there was no guarantee they would succeed. But it was the only option they had. "We'll figure it out," Leo said with a determined nod. "We have to." Vera gave a short, quiet laugh. "I see now why they sent you. You have more courage than most of my people." Leo shrugged. "It's not courage. It's just the reality of the situation." She looked at him, a flicker of something like admiration in her gaze. "Maybe you're right. Maybe humans are more resourceful than we give them credit for." The two of them stood in silence for a moment, the weight of their decision settling over them. There was no going back. The fate of the galaxy rested on the choices they were about to make. "I'll make the arrangements," Vera said quietly, Meet me in the war room in 1 hour. We'll need to plan our next steps carefully. Leo nodded, a sense of purpose filling him. I'll be there. As Vera left the room, Leo sat down again, staring at the crystal. He knew the mission ahead would test everything he had ever believed in. But he also knew that it was the only chance they had to stop the Zorathians, and for the first time since arriving on this distant planet, Leo felt like he was truly part of something bigger than himself. The ship flew through the dark stretch of space, the vastness of the universe pressing in on them. Leo sat at the helm, his eyes scanning the radar, while Vera studied the star maps, her focus unwavering. The tension between them was palpable. The quiet hum of the ship, the only sound in the cold void of space. They were getting closer, and with every passing moment, the danger of their mission grew. Leo couldn't help but feel the weight of the situation. They were deep in enemy territory, far from any form of backup, with only their wits and the ship's cloaking technology to protect them. If they were caught, there would be no escape. The Zorathians were ruthless, and their resources seemed endless. How far? Leo asked, breaking the silence. Vera looked up from the map, her eyes sharp. We're about 10 minutes away from the Zorothian asteroid field. Once we pass through that, we'll be in their base's proximity. After that, we'll need to navigate carefully to avoid detection. Leo nodded. The asteroid field was the first obstacle, a treacherous maze of floating rock and debris, often used by the Zorothians to shield their bases from prying eyes. They would have to rely on the ship's advanced cloaking system to pass undetected. As they neared the asteroid field, Leo's fingers instinctively tightened on the controls. The small, nimble ship felt vulnerable, like a leaf in a storm. Vera remained calm, her gaze fixed on the screen in front of her. We'll need to move carefully, she said, her voice steady. One wrong move and we'll be spotted. Stay focused. Leo took a deep breath, his heart pounding in his chest. He trusted Vera's instincts, but the pressure was unlike anything he had ever felt. Every second counted. It had to be perfect. The ship slowly entered the asteroid field, the large chunks of rock floating lazily around them. The ship's cloaking system activated, and the faint outline of the vessel disappeared into the shadows. Leo kept his eyes on the radar, watching for any signs of Zorothian patrols. Every asteroid that passed by felt like a threat, every flicker on the radar a potential danger. We're almost through, Vera whispered, her hand hovering over the controls. Her focus never wavered, her every movement calculated. Leo couldn't help but admire her. She was a leader, a warrior in her own right, and in that moment, he knew that her strength would guide them through this. Then, without warning, the radar beeped, signaling an incoming ship. Leo's heart skipped a beat as he saw the blip on the screen. It was a Zorothian patrol ship, its dark silhouette moving swiftly through the asteroid field. Vera's eyes narrowed. We need to hide, she said urgently. They can't see us. Leo quickly veered the ship behind a large asteroid, holding his breath as the Zorothian ship passed by. The cloaking system worked flawlessly, keeping them hidden in the shadow of the rock. The enemy ship moved on, unaware of their presence. Leo let out a sigh of relief, but Vera's expression remained tense. She wasn't satisfied with just avoiding one patrol. They were still deep in Zorothian territory, and every minute spent here increased their risk. That was too close, Leo said, his voice barely above a whisper. We need to move faster. Vera nodded, her fingers already working on the controls. We don't have much time. Once we clear this field, we'll be close to the Zorothian base. We can't afford another mistake. The ship moved steadily forward, weaving in and out of the floating asteroids. Leo's heart still raced, but he kept his focus. There was no room for error now. They had come too far. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, they emerged from the asteroid field. Ahead of them, the Zorothian base loomed in the distance, its massive structure hidden within. The heart of an enormous space station. It was heavily guarded, with Zorothian ships moving in and out of the docking bays. The base itself was surrounded by a dense perimeter of defense systems, designed to keep out anyone who didn't belong. "This is it," Vera said, her voice barely above a whisper. "The weapon is inside, but getting to it won't be easy. The Zorothians will be on high alert." Leo could feel the weight of the situation pressing down on him. They had made it this far, but now the real challenge began. The base was a fortress, and the Zorothians would do everything in their power to stop them from reaching the weapon. "We'll have to go in stealthily," Leo said. "Can't afford a full-on confrontation. Need to find the entrance and slip inside without being detected." Vera nodded, already scanning the base for any weaknesses. "There's a maintenance entrance on the lower level. If we can get there, we might be able to bypass the main defenses, but it won't be easy. The Zorothians are known for their security." Leo's mind raced as he thought through their options. He couldn't afford to waste any time. Every moment spent waiting increased their chances of being caught. "Let's do it," he said, determination in his voice. "We'll go through the maintenance entrance. Can't let them stop us now." Vera glanced at him, her eyes filled with a mixture of respect and admiration. "I knew you wouldn't back down," she said, "but we must be careful. One wrong move, and this entire mission will be a failure." Leo nodded. "We've come too far to fail now." That. Vera guided the ship toward the base, keeping to the shadows to avoid detection. As they got closer, Leo's nerves were on edge. The base loomed larger, and he could feel the threat of the Zorothians hanging over them like a dark cloud. Every corner could hide a new danger. The maintenance entrance was just ahead. Leo's heart raced as they drew closer. He could almost taste the victory, but it was still too soon to relax. They hadn't reached the weapon yet, and the hardest part was still ahead. "Stay sharp," Vera said. "We're almost there." They approached the entrance, and Leo held his breath, watching as the ship inched closer to the opening. The moment of truth was upon them. The maintenance entrance was small, tucked away on the lower level of the Zorothian base. As the ship glided silently towards the darkened opening, Leo's heart pounded in his chest. Every inch they moved closer to the base felt like another step into the unknown. The base, with its vast network of patrols and security systems, was a fortress, and any mistake could mean their capture. "Keep it steady," Vera whispered from beside him, her voice low but filled with determination. Her fingers danced across the controls, adjusting their approach, ensuring they stayed hidden in the shadows. Leo nodded, his eyes glued to the radar. The cloaking system was working perfectly, keeping them undetected, but the tension was unbearable. They were so close. Yet the closer they got, the more the threat of being discovered seemed to loom over them. The entrance was ahead. It was just a simple, unassuming door at the side of the base, but it was their only way in. The maintenance tunnels inside were a forgotten part of the base, usually used for repairs and deliveries. It was a route few would think to guard closely, but it was their best chance. As the ship slipped through the opening, Leo exhaled, relieved to be inside. The base was dark, quiet, and the sound of their engines was muffled in the cold metal. Corridors. The air inside the base was thick, filled with the smell of old machinery and a faint trace of something metallic. Vera activated the ship's lights, dimming them to avoid detection. The corridors around them were narrow, lined with old pipes and heavy machinery. It was a maze of forgotten equipment and hidden rooms. Leo had no idea where they were going, but Vera seemed to know exactly where to lead them. "Follow me," Vera said, her voice steady as she led the way. "The weapon is deeper inside the base. We'll need to avoid the patrols as we move through the tunnels." Leo followed her closely, staying alert. Every step they took was another step into the heart of the enemy's lair. The mission had already taken a dangerous turn, but now that they were inside, there was no turning back. The deeper they went, the more Leo realized how much was at stake. This wasn't just a mission to retrieve a weapon. It was a mission to save the galaxy from total destruction. The Zorothians were powerful, but if they could get to the weapon first, the balance of power would shift forever. They reached a dead end in the corridor, and Vera quickly turned to a hidden hatch on the wall. She entered a security code, and with a soft hiss, the hatch opened to reveal a narrow staircase that led further down into the base. Leo followed her down, feeling a strange mix of anticipation and dread. With every step they took, the weight of their mission became more real. The weapon they were about to find had the power to destroy worlds, and if the Zorathians got their hands on it, there was no telling what they could do. At the bottom of the stairs, they found themselves in a large open chamber. The walls were lined with strange alien technology, most of which Leo couldn't even begin to understand. The chamber was empty, but Leo could feel the heavy presence of the weapon. Somewhere nearby, the air in the room felt charged, as if the weapon was calling to them. "This is it," Vera said, her voice quiet, but filled with a sense of purpose. "The weapon is here. Out. But we need to be careful. The Zorathians have placed multiple layers of security to keep it safe." Leo nodded. He had expected as much. The Zorathians were ruthless, and they wouldn't leave the weapon unguarded, but they were so close now, he could feel it. Vera walked to a large terminal in the center of the room, her fingers flying across the screen. The terminal lit up with an array of holographic images, some of which Leo recognized as military maps and data about the weapon. "I need to access the core," Vera said, her tone calm but focused. "It will give us the final key to unlocking the weapon's location. But it's encrypted. It will take a few minutes." Leo kept a watchful eye on the door, listening for any sounds that might indicate Zorathian patrols. The last thing they needed was to be caught here, in the heart of the base, with no way out. As Vera worked, Leo couldn't help but glance at her. She was fully focused, her brow furrowed in concentration. The princess, who had once seemed distant and unapproachable, now appeared more human than ever. The weight of her responsibilities, the decisions she had to make for the survival of her people, were clear in her eyes. Despite everything, despite the fear and uncertainty of the mission, Leo felt a growing respect for her. She wasn't just a princess or a leader. She was someone who understood sacrifice, who knew what it meant to fight for something bigger than herself. "You're doing great," Leo said, his voice low but sincere. Vera glanced up at him, her lips curling into a small smile. "Thanks, Leo, but we're not done yet." Leo smiled back, knowing she was right. There was still so much more to do. The weapon was close, but so were the Zorathians, and they wouldn't stop until they found them. With a final press of a button, the terminal beeped, and a holographic map appeared before them. Vera's eyes scanned it quickly. "It's here," she said, pointing to a large, sealed chamber on the map. "The weapon is located in the core of the base, but it's heavily guarded. We'll need to get past a final security lock to reach it." Leo nodded. They had come so far, and now the last obstacle stood before them. The security systems would be a challenge, but Leo was confident they could figure it out. They had already outsmarted the Zorathians once. They could do it again. But just as they began to move toward the chamber, a loud, shrill alarm echoed throughout the base. "Trouble," Vera said, her voice tense. "We've been detected." Leo's heart raced. The Zorathians knew they were. Here now, there was no time to waste. They had to get to the weapon before it was too late. Vera grabbed his arm, pulling him toward the chamber's entrance. "Move quickly. We don't have much time." Leo followed her, every instinct telling him to hurry. The Zorathians were coming, and they couldn't afford to be caught. Not now, not when they were so close. The sound of alarms echoed through the base, growing louder with every passing second. Leo's heart raced as he followed Vera, his mind spinning with thoughts of how they could escape. The Zorathians had finally detected them. They had to move. Fast. Vera's pace quickened as she led Leo down the narrow corridor toward the core chamber. "We have to reach the weapon now," she said urgently. "If we don't, the Zorathians will lock it down. We won't get another chance." Leo nodded, his eyes scanning the dimly lit halls. The place was quiet now, but he knew that wouldn't last. They were being hunted. The Zorathians had to be closing in on their position, and they had no idea how many soldiers were on there. Tail, the map that Vera had unlocked earlier, guided them, showing the layout of the complex in holographic form. They were almost there, just a few more turns, and they would reach the chamber where the weapon was hidden. But as they rounded a corner, they were met with a surprise. A group of Zoarthian soldiers stood in their path, their weapons raised and ready. Leo froze, his breath caught in his chest. There were at least 5 of them, armed with energy rifles. Their eyes locked onto the pair as they slowly approached. "Stop right there," one of the soldiers barked, his voice harsh and commanding. "You're not going any further?" Vera's expression didn't change. She looked at Leo for a brief moment, her eyes filled with determination. She didn't seem afraid, she seemed focused, like a leader preparing to make a hard choice. Without warning, Vera raised her hand and spoke in a low, calm voice. "We don't want to fight you. We're here to stop the Zorathians, not join them." Soldiers laughed, but there was no humor in it. "You think you can stop us?" the leader sneered. "You're alone. You're outnumbered. Surrender now, and we'll take you to the High Commander." Leo's muscles tensed. He could see the hesitation in their eyes, the uncertainty that came from facing an enemy they didn't understand. The Zorathians were ruthless, but they didn't yet know what Vera and Leo were capable of. "Can't surrender," Vera said, her voice steely. "We came here for something important, and you're standing in our way." The soldiers' laughter died instantly. The leader stepped forward, his weapon aimed directly at them. "Then you leave us no choice." Leo's mind raced. They couldn't fight their way out of this. They had to be clever. They had to think fast. Suddenly, an idea flashed in his mind. Without warning, he lunged forward, grabbing the nearest soldier by the arm and twisting it behind his back. The soldier cried out, dropping his rifle as Leo quickly took it from him. In a blur of motion, Leo trained. The weapon on the other soldiers, his fingers steady as he aimed. "You're making a mistake," the leader growled, taking a step back. "Do you think you can take all of us?" Leo's gaze hardened. "I don't want to fight, but I will if I have to." Vera stepped up beside him, her eyes scanning the soldiers with cold calculation. "This doesn't have to end in violence," she said. "We're here to destroy the Zorothian threat, not become part of it." The soldiers exchanged uncertain glances, clearly unsure of what to do. Leo could see the conflict in their eyes. They were loyal to their cause, but they were also just soldiers trained to follow orders. But not all of them willing to die for a war they didn't fully understand. The leader hesitated, and Leo saw his chance. In one swift motion, he lunged forward, knocking the leader's weapon out of his hand. He aimed it directly at the ceiling, firing a warning shot that rang out loud and clear. The soldiers stood frozen, and Leo's voice cut through the tension. "You're not going to stop us. We're here to protect the galaxy from your peoples." Greed. Vera took a step forward, her voice steady and commanding. "We don't want to fight you. Join us, and together we can defeat the real enemy, the Zorothians, who have forced you into this war. This isn't your fight." There was a long silence, and then the unexpected happened. The leader, his face pale, dropped his weapon and raised, his hands in surrender. We don't want to die for this. We're just following orders. We don't even know what's at stake." Vera nodded. "Then you have a choice. Help us, and we'll stop the bloodshed. Stand with us, and we'll defeat the Zorathians together." For a long moment, the soldiers looked at each other, fear and uncertainty on their faces. Leo could see the hesitation, but also the hope in their eyes. They didn't want to be part of the war anymore. Finally, the leader lowered his hands. "What do you want us to do?" Leo breathed a sigh of relief, feeling the tension in his chest. "Begin to ease. Help us disable the base's security systems. We can't make it to the weapon without that." The soldiers nodded, and together they moved quickly through the halls, heading for the security room. Vera led the way, her focus unwavering. Leo felt a growing sense of unity between them. This wasn't just about the weapon, it was about stopping the Zorathians from destroying everything. The soldiers were just as tired of the war as he was, and now they had a chance to end it. As they reached the security room, Leo turned to the leader. "Can you disable the systems?" The leader nodded. "We've been trying to get access to this room for months. We can do it." The soldiers quickly set to work typing in codes and manipulating the controls. Leo stood watch, his heart pounding in his chest. This was their chance. The weapon was within reach, but only if they could make it past the last line of defense. Finally, the doors to the security system opened, and the soldiers nodded to Leo and Vera. "It's done," the leader said. "You're clear." Vera smiled, a look of relief washing over her. "Thank you." Leo turned to her, his face serious. "Now let's finish this." Together, they moved forward, their mission still unfinished, but now more certain than ever. They had allies where they once had enemies, and for the first time, they felt the weight of hope in their hands.